I want you to look around your living room right now. Maybe the television is on, providing a low hum of background noise. Maybe the house is perfectly clean, everything in its place, the photos of your family arranged neatly on the mantelpiece. It is peaceful. It is quiet. But sometimes, that quiet feels heavy. Sometimes, that silence feels less like peace and more like a weight pressing down on your chest. You might spend hours of your day without hearing the sound of your own voice, except perhaps to say a few words to the cat or to answer a telemarketer. You have likely been told by your doctor to watch your cholesterol. You have been told to cut down on sugar to prevent diabetes. You have been told to walk 20 minutes a day to keep your weight down. We obsess over these things. We count calories. We track our steps. We worry about the number on the scale. But there is a silent killer in the room that almost no doctor talks about, and statistics show it is more dangerous to your survival than obesity, more dangerous than a sedentary lifestyle, and just as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That killer is loneliness. Today we are going to have a very honest, scientific, and perhaps emotional conversation about the biology of isolation. I am not talking about being alone. There is a difference. You can be alone and be happy, that is called solitude. I am talking about loneliness, the distress signal your brain sends when you feel disconnected from the tribe. We are going to explore why this feeling is not just an emotion, but a biological poison that changes your blood chemistry, destroys your sleep, and breaks down your immune system. We are going to look at the hard science of how a simple phone call to a grandchild acts as a potent anti-inflammatory drug. And we are going to break the stigma that says reaching out is a sign of weakness. By the end of this video, you will understand that connection is not a luxury for the elderly, it is a survival requirement, just like water and air. To understand why loneliness kills, we have to go back in time. We have to look at how the human body evolved. For thousands of years, human beings lived in tribes. We lived in tight-knit groups where we hunted together, ate together, and slept together. In that ancient world, being part of the group meant safety. It meant you had protection from predators. It meant you had access to food. If you were separated from the tribe, if you were cast out or left behind, that was a death sentence. To be alone in the wild meant you were vulnerable to being eaten by a lion or freezing to death. Because of this, your brain evolved a high-level alarm system. When you are isolated, your brain perceives a life-threatening emergency. It flips a switch in your nervous system. This is the fight or flight response. Your brain floods your body with stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline. It does this to prepare you to fight the predator or run for your life. Your heart beats faster. Your blood pressure rises. Your white blood cells mobilize to fight infection in case you get bitten. This is a survival mechanism. It is supposed to last for 10 minutes, just long enough to survive the danger and get back to the tribe. But here is the tragedy of modern life for those over 60 in America. We have built a society that isolates us. We live in big houses, often alone after a spouse passes away or children move for work. We rely on technology. We don't sit on the front porch anymore. So, for millions of seniors, that fight or flight alarm doesn't just ring for 10 minutes. It rings for 10 years. You are living in a state of chronic, low-grade emergency. Your body is constantly marinating in cortisol. You are biologically prepared for a tiger attack that never comes, simply because the house is empty. Let's look at what this chronic cortisol does to you physically. This is where the comparison to obesity comes in. When you carry extra weight, it puts strain on your heart and joints. But when you are lonely, the stress hormones attack the very walls of your arteries. Cortisol causes inflammation. We talk about inflammation a lot, but imagine it like this. It is like your body is on fire on the inside. It causes the lining of your blood vessels to become irritated and sticky. This attracts plaque. This leads to atherosclerosis, heart attacks, and strokes. The science is undeniable. lonely people have significantly higher blood pressure and a much higher risk of heart disease than those who are socially connected, regardless of their diet. You could eat broccoli and steamed fish every day, but if you eat them in a state of profound loneliness, your body is still under attack. This inflammation also destroys your immune system. Remember I said that the lonely brain prepares for a predator attack. It changes your immune cells. It tells them to focus on fighting bacteria, like from a wound, and to stop focusing on fighting viruses. This leaves you wide open to viral infections like the flu or pneumonia. This is why we often see a decline in health in seniors immediately after they lose a spouse. It is not just a broken heart, in the poetic sense, it is a broken immune system caused by the sudden spike in isolation stress. Their bodies literally stop fighting off illnesses because the biological will to survive is tied to the group. We also have to talk about the brain itself. Dementia and Alzheimer's are the great fears of our generation. We do puzzles, we read books, we take supplements. But the number one protective factor for the brain is social interaction. Conversation is incredibly complex. When you talk to someone, you have to listen, interpret their tone, read their facial expressions, recall memories, and formulate a response. It is a high-intensity workout for your neurons. When you stop talking to people, those neural pathways atrophy. They wither away like a muscle that isn't used. Studies have shown that lonely seniors have a much faster rate of cognitive decline. The hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory, actually shrinks in people who report high levels of loneliness. Isolation literally makes your brain smaller. Then there is the issue of sleep. You might think you sleep okay, or maybe you struggle with insomnia. Loneliness destroys sleep quality. Going back to our caveman ancestors, if you were alone in the jungle, you couldn't afford to sleep deeply. You had to stay alert for the cracking twig that signaled a predator. Today, even in your safe suburban bedroom, your lonely brain stays in a state of micro-alertness. You might wake up more often. You spend less time in the deep, restorative phases of sleep where the body repairs itself. You wake up exhausted, which makes you less likely to go out and socialize, creating a vicious cycle. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room. Why is this so hard to fix? If loneliness is so deadly, why don't we just pick up the phone? Why don't we just go to the senior center? It is because of a psychological barrier that affects our generation specifically. We were raised to be independent. We were raised not to complain. We value not being a burden. How many times have you looked at the phone and thought about calling your son or daughter, but then put it down because you thought, no, they are busy. They have work. The kids have soccer practice. I don't want to bother them. This thought, I don't want to be a burden, is one of the most dangerous thoughts you can have. It keeps you trapped in the silo of silence. It reinforces the isolation. And here is the irony, by not calling, by letting your health deteriorate due to loneliness, you become more likely to become a physical burden later on due to illness. Prevention is connection. We need to reframe what a phone call or a visit is. It is not just chatting. It is medicine. When you hear a familiar voice, especially a voice you love, your body releases a hormone called oxytocin. This is the love hormone or the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is the biological antidote to cortisol. It is the fire extinguisher that puts out the inflammation. When you hug a grandchild, or even just laugh with a friend on the phone, your heart rate slows down. Your blood pressure drops. Your digestion improves. Your pain threshold actually goes up, meaning your arthritis hurts less when you are socially engaged. This is a scientific fact. Connection acts as a natural painkiller. So, how do we treat this disease of loneliness? We treat it with small, manageable doses of connection. You don't need to become the life of the party. You don't need to go to a loud club. You just need micro-connections. Let's talk about the grandchild prescription. If you have grandchildren, or nieces and nephews, they are your best therapy. But you have to bridge the gap. They live on their phones. You might prefer a landline. You have to meet them where they are. Sending a text message is a valid form of connection. It tells your brain, I am thinking of someone, and they are thinking of me. But hearing the voice is better. There is a concept I want you to adopt called the 8-minute call. A recent study showed that people avoid making calls because they think it has to be a long, drawn-out hour-long conversation. They don't have the energy for that. But the study found that an 8-minute phone call, just checking in, sharing one story, hearing one piece of news, and hanging up, provided almost all the same hormonal benefits as a long conversation, with none of the fatigue. You can call your daughter and say, I know you're busy, I just wanted to hear your voice for 5 minutes and tell you about the bird I saw in the yard. That's it. That small interaction resets your nervous system. It tells your primal brain, I am still part of the tribe. I am safe. What if you don't have family? Or what if your family is estranged? This is a reality for many. The tribe does not have to be blood relations. It can be anyone. The biology of connection works with strangers, too. It is called weak ties. Sociologists have found that brief, positive interactions with people you barely know, the mailman, the cashier at the grocery store, the librarian, boost your immune system. When you look the cashier in the eye and say, how is your day going, and really listen to the answer, you are creating a moment of shared humanity. You are breaking the seal of isolation. Volunteering is another powerful drug. When we are lonely, we tend to focus inward. We ruminate on our own aches, our own sadness, our own past. Volunteering forces your focus outward. It gives you a sense of purpose. Purpose is the enemy of loneliness. When you know that someone else needs you, whether it is walking dogs at a shelter or reading to kids at a library, your brain produces dopamine. You feel useful. Being useful signals survival. It tells the body, keep this person alive, they have a job to do. This is why volunteers statistically live longer than non-volunteers. I want to talk about the physical environment of your home again. If you live alone, the silence can be deafening. You need to break that silence, but not just with the TV. The TV is passive. It talks at you, not with you. Try listening to talk radio or podcasts where people are having real conversations. It tricks the brain slightly into feeling present in a group. But better yet, get out of the house. The third place rule is essential. Your first place is home. Your second place was work. Now that you are retired, you need a third place. A coffee shop where they know your order. A park bench where you see the same dog walkers. A church. A barber shop. You need a place where you are recognized. Just being recognized, someone nodding and saying, hello, Jim, releases that safety signal in the brain. We also have to discuss the role of hearing. Hearing loss is a major driver of loneliness. If you can't hear what people are saying, you withdraw. You stop going to dinner because the background noise is too much. You stop answering the phone because it is frustrating. You retreat into a shell. If you are struggling to hear, getting a hearing aid is not about vanity. It is about staying connected to the human race. It is about keeping your brain plugged into the network. Treat your hearing loss aggressively, because it is the bridge to the world. Let's go back to the comparison with obesity. If I told you there was a pill that could reduce your risk of dying by 30%, you would pay thousands of dollars for it. You would take it every day without fail. If I told you that pill was lunch with a friend, you might say, oh, I'll get around to it. We have to stop treating socialization as a leisure activity. It is not a hobby. It is a biological necessity. We have to schedule it with the same rigor that we schedule a dentist appointment or a colonoscopy. You need to put call Bob on your calendar. You need to put coffee with neighbor on your calendar. And you must not cancel it just because you don't feel like it. Depression often whispers in your ear. It tells you, nobody wants to see you. You're boring. You're old. Just stay home. That is the disease talking. You have to fight that voice. You have to act contrary to how you feel. The action comes first, the feeling comes later. You pick up the phone despite the fear. And almost every time, once the conversation starts, you feel the relief washing over you. You feel the weight lifting. There is a Japanese concept called moai. In Okinawa, Japan, which is one of the blue zones where people live the longest, they form these groups called moai. It is a group of 5 friends who commit to each other for life. They meet every afternoon. They talk, they drink tea, they support each other financially and emotionally. They don't have to face life alone. In America, we don't have this built-in system. We have to build it ourselves. It is harder, yes. It takes effort. But the payoff is years of extra life. I want you to think about your dining table. For many, the dining table has become a mail sorting station. It is covered in papers. You eat your dinner on a tray in front of the news. I challenge you to clear that table. Invite one person over. It doesn't have to be a fancy dinner party. Order a pizza. Make a pot of soup. The food doesn't matter. What matters is looking into another person's eyes and sharing the experience of eating. This mimics the ancient tribal fire. It tells your digestive system to relax and absorb nutrients. Eating together is one of the most primal acts of bonding we have. Let's address the fear of rejection. What if I call and they don't answer? What if I invite the neighbor and they say no? It hurts. It stings. But you have to build resilience. It is likely not about you. People are busy, people are stressed. You have to keep trying. You have to cast a wide net. Join a club based on an interest, a gardening club, a book club, a classic car group. When you join a group based on a shared interest, you skip the awkward, small talk phase because you already have something to talk about. The focus is on the activity, not on the loneliness, which takes the pressure off. There is a distinct difference between the quality of relationships and the quantity. You don't need 100 friends. You don't need to be popular on Facebook. You need 3. Research suggests that having just 3 people in your life who you feel you can truly count on, people who would show up at the hospital if you were sick, is the magic number for health protection. Take an inventory of your life. Do you have those 3 people? If yes, nurture them. Call them today. If no, make finding them your priority for the year. It is more important than losing 10 pounds. Let's summarize the science because I want you to really believe this. Loneliness increases cortisol. This is the stress hormone that tears down your body. Cortisol increases inflammation. This leads to heart disease, diabetes, and arthritis. Isolation suppresses the immune system. You get sick easier and stay sick longer. Connection releases oxytocin. This heals the damage, lowers blood pressure, and improves mood. Socializing protects the brain. It prevents cognitive decline and keeps the memory sharp. This is not woo-woo spiritual advice. This is hard medical fact. The Surgeon General of the United States has released an advisory calling loneliness an epidemic that requires urgent attention. We are living through a crisis of disconnection. So, what is your homework assignment? It is simple. I want you to pick up the phone. I want you to think of one person you haven't spoken to in a while. A grandchild, an old colleague, a cousin. Dial the number. If they answer, ask them questions. People love to talk about themselves. Ask them what they are working on. Ask them what they had for dinner. Just listen. Feel the connection happening. Feel your shoulders drop. If they don't answer, leave a message. Say, I was just thinking about you and wanted to say hello. That message matters. It plants a seed. If you are feeling brave, go for a walk in your neighborhood. If you see a neighbor, stop. Don't just wave and keep walking. Stop and ask a question. Your roses look beautiful, what is your secret? That one sentence can be the beginning of a friendship. It can be the crack in the wall of isolation. We have to stop waiting for the world to come to us. As we age, our world naturally shrinks. We retire, we stop driving as much, friends pass away. If we are passive, the walls close in until we are trapped. We have to be active. We have to push the walls back out. We have to be the initiators. I know it is tired. I know you are tired. Loneliness causes fatigue. It feels safer to just stay in the chair. But the chair is the danger zone. The chair is where the cortisol builds up. The medicine is out there, in the voices of other people. Your value does not decrease with age. You have stories to tell. You have wisdom to share. You have jokes to make. The world needs you to be present in it. Don't deprive the world of your company. And don't deprive your body of the medicine it needs. If you are watching this and feeling that deep ache of loneliness, know that you are not alone in feeling it. Millions feel it. But you can be the one to break the cycle today. You can be the one to reach out. Remember, the goal isn't to be a social butterfly. The goal is to turn off the alarm system. The goal is to tell your ancient, primitive brain, I am okay. I am connected. I am not alone in the wilderness. So, put down the remote. Pick up the phone. Make the call. Your heart, your brain, and your immune system are waiting for it. It is the most important thing you will do for your health all day. Thank you for listening. Now, go make that connection.